Hey guys, so I spent these past couple hours just debugging and creating a nice little master material that will be the basis for what we'll use for our game. This is a PBR based material, does not work on glass though. I haven't built in the glass features yet or subsurface features, but that's largely irrelevant. This works for pretty much every object, like I said, except for glass or skin or milk or, anything that uses SSS. So let's go ahead and get started. Why this is a nifty material. In and of itself, it doesn't look all that great, but if we make an instance, not going to care to rename it, it looks fine. Okay, it's decent. It does its job. But if we decide we don't like anything about it, what's nice is the very, like, I don't know, what do you say, versatile controls this material has. So we can actually change just about everything for this. Go ahead and enable everything. So let's say that I'm not a fan of the way this is tinted. So I'll actually just drag that down to white. Notice that it's changing. Nifty, nifty. I can make this any arbitrary color. It doesn't matter. I can also make this any arbitrary textures. Let's do the new clay, because why not? It doesn't matter what the texture is. This will take in any image texture, literally any image. So keep that in mind. That'll be really handy for just about any of our procedurals, but a lot of our game assets are going to use this sort of material. And now let's say that I want it to glow. So, okay, well then you can glow. Although it wouldn't make sense for this to glow anyway, so we're not going to worry about that. But what does make sense, look at how shiny this is, and it probably shouldn't be. So let's just go ahead and adjust how metallic it looks. No, it actually looks more like a metal. So we can go ahead and turn that down to 0. In fact, if I wanted, I could actually just pass in a texture. So how much of the mask do we want to use? I don't know, a random arbitrary amount. See, notice that now it's a different pattern because I have a different texture. If I don't want to use that texture anymore, take out the switch, and now we're dealing with pure metal. Same for my normals, but the normals are actually real nifty because we have a lot of control here. So for starters, we have both our base normal map, which again can literally be any normal map that I want it to be. Probably should find the right one. Brick, clay, old, normal. Right? And if I decide that I want it to be more intense, kind of ugly because I broke the shader, but you get the picture. You can, with this material, change how intense just about everything is. I'm going to leave it at 1 though. What's real nice, the detail normal. If I decide that there's just not enough to break up how procedural this looks, then we can choose, again, any arbitrary texture. It doesn't matter. It could be anything. And then we can also adjust the intensity for that. And look that it's breaking up that kind of default look that only that one texture has. So we can combine these textures together. But again, if I decide that I don't want to use it, then I just turn it off. Turn it off. Now we're back to what we were left with. And same for here. If I actually don't want to use normals at all, which I don't know why I wouldn't, I can also turn those off. Just turn off all my normal stuff. Actually, go back into my switch and turn my switch off. And it's going to take some time to recompute because there's a lot going on, but now it's flat. Again, there's never a scenario where we would use this, but it's just there to have in case we decide we don't want that texture. So we're going to go ahead and turn all of these back on. The roughness is, it's the same thing. If we decide we don't want to use a texture, then we unplug the texture, and it's going to take a second to recompile here because my computer's not that fast. So yeah. And again, now it's still got that shiny look, but I haven't particularly tuned it. But that's also because my roughness is set to 0, so go ahead and turn that up to something pretty rough. Maybe it's a little wet, so But again, all the parameters are there to tune, and that's the important thing. If I think that the normals are too much, then I come down here and both adjust my detail normal and maybe my overall normal intensity as well. Or again, if I decide I don't want to use that texture, then I'm going to turn that texture off. And maybe I want to use a texture for my roughness, so I'll go back and say I want to use 100% of that texture. But I don't want it to be too terribly rough, so now we've got some breakups going on. And I'm going to go ahead and turn normals back on because literally everything looks better with normals. And if I decide that there's not enough bricks here on this mesh, say we change it to a cube, maybe I want more bricks. That's fine. Let's tile that. So maybe I want, and the textures need to be seamless, But again, that's stuff that all this depends on just setting up the textures. So if my texture's seamless, maybe I want more bricks in this instance. Maybe I want 3 times as many bricks. Boom. Now have 3 times as many bricks. And maybe I decided that my detail normals aren't quite strong enough. So maybe we go ahead and turn that up. But maybe I want to tile that as well because it just, I don't know, maybe I don't like the way that it looks for whatever reason, so I'm going to want to tile that as well. Well, we can. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I wanted 5 times as much of those detail normals for whatever arbitrary reason. So this shader is going to allow us to have a very advanced look development workflow, wrong way, for our game. Everything is going to be, like 97% of everything is going to be using this shader. This doesn't apply to any particle systems, obviously none of the lights, but any hard surfaces that aren't glass are going to use this shader. Grass is also not going to use this shader because it's just not set up for it, but any like hard dielectric or metal material that's not glass or milk will use this shader very well. And again, what's great about the shader is it's all based off of this one master material, and these are all instances. So if I want to add something to just one, I make an instance and then add it. Or if I want to change any one of them in any arbitrary way, because we can, that's what we're going to do. Those controls are built in. So just a quick recap, we basically have the control to decide which maps we want to use, if we want to emit, how metallic we might want things to be, you know, the works. In fact, I'm going to turn this switch back on. And now, so say we're using that map, and I'm actually going to change that back to 1. All of our workflow is going to be based around letting textures and our textures are going to drive our look, and then we're going to modify our look with this shader. We're not going to spend much time like going through and making shaders because they're all going to be based around this, which will allow us to, you know, let it's going to make everything faster, basically. It's just going to allow us to let the look that we want to get drive our overall workflow instead of spending a lot of time writing in different shaders. This is also important because this is going to save a lot of memory. We've just got this one shader, and that's going to be instanced every time. So that saves memory on disk because we're not copying anything. I mean, we are copying it in RAM, but we're not having to load a bunch of different shaders. We're only having to load one shader to the graphics card. In reality, it's probably going to be a little bit more, but we're only going to be loading in a couple shaders to our GPU, and we're going to be saving a lot of time that way. So yeah, I think this is nifty, and I'll keep developing it, but our main shader is going to like largely be based off this. And again, this works for any texture. This is all arbitrary. There's no, oh, you have to do it this way because whatever reason. No, the only reason you're going to do something is because you're going to get a specific look that you want. So if I want to use the entirety of my texture to have some glow and then like amp that up, see these areas, I have this cloud texture where it's like actually emitting light. No, it's not going to make sense, but you know, I might say there was a light or something built into this. I don't know why there would be. We could pass it a mask. Basically, it just means everything is going to be driven by a look that we want to get, and we're not going to be limited by our shaders. So yeah, there's that.